All right, howdy guys. This is part 2 of the Unit 2 practice test video series. Haha, it's a series now. Okay, so I realized that the last video was super freaking long, so I'm going to try to not overdo, because y'all know Miss Gallant's extra, she can't help it. All right, so we're starting with question 11. We left off, we finished 1 through 10, so now we are on question 11. So it asks us to graph the function. So we have x and y. We'll put our function rule in the middle. Let's see, let's pick a couple of x values. I think the standard 5 that I like to pick will be pretty good over here. So let's look at this. So we are going to plug in -2 first. -2 squared is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. Okay, -1 squared is +1. +1 plus 5 is 6. 0 squared is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. 1 squared is 1 plus 5 is 6. 2 squared is 4 plus 5 is 9. All right. So when I go to graph, I know I could go in order. I think I did that in the last video. I'm going to start with my 0 because it's the easiest. So I have a point at 0, 5. I have a point at 1, 6. And at -1, 6. I have a point at 2, 9. And I have a point at -2, 9. I'm going to connect it, make sure it looks like a U and not a V, and boom, we're done. All right. Number 12. Number 12 says, identify the result if f of x is translated down 3 units to create g of x. Then graph f of x and g of x. So we'll do f of x in purple. So f of x equals x plus 6. So we could do our table of values. Now, since taking this, since the unit test, or prior to the unit test, we have learned slope-intercept form and all that. So we could just graph it using slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form tells me to start at 6 on the y-axis. And then what's my slope? Well, there's nothing in front of x. So it's an understood 1. So my slope should be up 1 over 1. Up 1, right 1. Up 1, right 1. You know, we've said up 1 over 1 for years. But it really is kind of important to know which direction you're going in. Because I went up 1, right 1. But then to continue it, I had to go down and left. So it's not the... I mean, if you say up 1 over 1, you're not like the worst person in the world, but you do need to be aware of which direction you're going in. All right, so this is my f of x. So g of x wants to translate down 3 units. So if I look at my graph, this should go down 1, 2, 3 units. Every point should go down 3 units. My slope doesn't change. They would be parallel lines. Hey. They'd be parallel lines because the slope shouldn't change. It's just shifted down 3 units or translated down 3 units. So here would be g of x. So I need to know my new function rule or my new equation. So if I think about, I shifted down 3 units. So what is my new y-intercept? My new y-intercept is 3. So my g of x function is x plus 3 because it's a new y-intercept. Also, when we did our investigative activity, that would have been the chicken packet. What we learned is that if you want to translate something down, you subtract from that. So if I want to go down 3 units, I would subtract 3. Well, what's 6 minus 3? 3. So that's 2 ways of getting the exact same thing. All right, so g of x would be x plus 3. f of x would be x plus 6. G of x is shifted 3 units from f of x. All right, 13. Find the slope of the line given the following points that are on the line. And guys, y'all got to know slope. You got to know how to do slope. You got to know that formula. You have to be able to calculate rise over run. If you can't do that, not trying to be negative, Nancy, but that is one of the most important pieces of algebra. Solving equations and then graphing them and knowing your slope. Those are like some of the most important things ever in algebra. Okay, so slope, we have a formula. And if you tell me the slope formula is y equals mx plus b, I'm going to come out of this video and pop you upside the head, because that's not true. The slope formula is how we find slope. This is how we find m. M is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? That's slope, not y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. That's a way of using the slope to write a line. That's not how you find the slope. That's using the slope. You have to already have the slope to know how to use y equals mx plus b. So this is the slope formula. If you need to go get it tattooed, go tattoo it on yourself, okay? That's the slope formula. All right. So, y'all know I'm crazy. I can't help myself. All right, so let's start looking at this. So y2 minus y1. So we're going to subtract our y's. Now, it doesn't matter if you do 4 minus negative 2 or negative 2 minus 4. Like, it doesn't matter which order you do your y's in, as long as your x's you do in the exact same order. So it doesn't matter which order, as long as it's the same order. So let's do 4 minus negative 2 over, since I used 4 first, then I have to use negative 1 first. I have to do the exact same thing. So we'll do negative 1 minus 3. You've got to make sure that these coordinates are from the same, or that these numbers are from the same coordinate, negative 1, 4, negative 1, 4, and that these are from the same coordinate, 3, negative 2, 3, negative 2. All right, so we have 4 minus negative 2. Well, minus a negative becomes plus, so we have 4 plus 2, which is 6. Negative 1 minus 3 is going to be negative 4. This will reduce to negative 3 halves. Again, this negative, it doesn't matter if it goes with the top, bottom, or to the side, because the whole fraction is negative. So there's my slope. Okay, 14. Direct and indirect variations. So the value of y varies directly as x, and y equals 8 when x equals 3. So what is the value of y when x equals 2? So the key piece of this is that it varies directly. So direct variation is y equals kx. All right, so to figure out an x or a y in any of these pairs, we have to know our k value. What we know is that when y is 8, x is 3. Or when x is 3, y is 8. So we have to figure out our k value. So how do I solve for k? Well, to get k by itself, we divide by x. K is equal to y divided by x. So k equals 8 divided by 3. And y'all know Miss Gallant doesn't like decimals, so I'm going to leave it as 8 over 3. So when I come over here, my equation is going to be y equals 8/3 divided by x. So I want to know what y is when x is 2. I lied. This is y equals 8/3 times x, because it's direct variation. I lied. Here we go, direct. Be careful with direct and indirect. So we're going to plug 2 in for x. Okay, and 2 times 8 is 16. So y is going to equal 16/3. All right. And you can leave it as a fraction. You don't have to actually divide and get the decimal. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little lazy mathematician, but honestly, when you have to plug numbers in, I would rather plug in a fraction than a repeating decimal any day of the week. Just, I don't know, but I'm a math nerd. All right. This should be 14B. All right, 14B and 14A are the exact same question, except that y varies indirectly, which means instead of our equation being y equals kx, like it was for here, our equation is going to be y equals k over x. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing. How do I solve for k? Well, instead of dividing by x, we're going to multiply by x. And k equals xy. Okay, so y is 8, x is 3. K is going to equal 8 times 3, which is 24. All right, so I'm going to put it back into my equation. Y equals 24 divided by x. So I want to know the value of y when x is 2. So all I'm going to do is plug 2 in. Y equals 24 over 2. Which is 12. So I know some people are going to be like, well, why did you leave this one as a fraction and not this one? That's as simplified as it will get. It is an improper fraction, but that's as simplified as I can get it. This, on the other hand, 24 over 2, you can simplify it to 12. So I'd go for the simplest answer. All right, 15. Let's see, I'm doing much better on time than last time. 15, Kelsey collected data on stacking desks. Use the table of data that Kelsey collected to write a function to represent the data. Whew, okay. So let's figure out what's going on here. I can write a function, but this kind of looks more like a sequence, right? Because let's look at this. We have a first term, and then every time I add a chair, I have a common difference of 4. So even though it says write a function, let's use our arithmetic sequence formula because that's pretty easy. So arithmetic sequence is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. If y'all don't remember that, so when we write a function, oh my goodness, I'm not even showing you the problem. Sorry. It's Halloween when I'm filming this. I've been surrounded by sugar-filled teenagers all day. My 2-year-old I know is going to be hyped up when he gets home from daycare. So look, Miss Gallant's just kind of dealing with today, so I'm sorry. Y'all, just think of me. I'm suffering. Okay, so let's fill in our first term. What's our first term? 32. Plus, what's my common difference? It's 4. I'm increasing by 4 each time. And then we'll put n minus 1 in parentheses. And now, here's the kicker. It said write a function, not an arithmetic sequence. So instead of a sub n, we'll do f of n. And that is a beautifully written function that works perfectly with this. If you wanted to simplify, let's just do it for fun. More math is fun. If you wanted to simplify, you could distribute this 4. And we would get 32 plus 4n minus 4. And then 32 minus 4 would be 28. So we'd have f of n equals 4n plus 28. And that looks like a linear function, and that works too. They're both correct. Make sure, though, because it says function, you have your function notation. You have f of n, not a sub n. And I know that sounds silly, but I want to make sure you know the difference between the explicit formula and a function. And I just want us to get used to writing things in function notation. Okay, so let me skip over to the next page. All right. 16, find the 24th term in the arithmetic sequence. All right, so I would start by writing my formula. It doesn't say I have to, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and add the common difference 24 times. I'm just not going to do it. So let's start with our formula. We have a sub n equals, what's my first term? Negative 11. Plus, what is my common difference? So to get from negative 11 to negative 5, I believe I add 6. To get from negative 5 to 1, I add 6, add 6, add 6. So my common difference is 6 times n minus 1. Now ask for the 24th term. So we're going to be looking for a sub 24. And we're going to plug in 24 for n. So that's going to be 24 minus 1 is 23. 6 times 23. Let me use my handy dandy calculator. Let's see. We have 6 times 23, and that's 138 minus 11 is 127. So a sub 24, the 24th term is 127. All right, 17. Write the equation that describes the line with a slope of 2/3 and a y-intercept of -4 in slope-intercept form. Oh my goodness, I hope y'all can do this without me, but just in case. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So if I want a line that has a slope of 2/3, I'm just going to change m to 2/3. And if my y-intercept is -4, I'm going to change b to -4. And I'm done. All right. 18. Write an equation in point-slope form. So point-slope form that has a slope of 3 and has the point -2, 6. So point-slope form, remember, it looks like this. This one's a little different. So this one, y'all have known for a long time. Like, every question I ever asked you before we got to this was y'all's answer. Could ask you what color the sky is, and people would go, y equals mx plus b. So I know you know this one. Point slope is a little new, but I think most people were pretty comfortable with it. So our formula for that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so we're just going to fill in the points. So we leave the first y, and it's going to be y minus, what's my y coordinate? 6. So y minus 6 equals my slope, which is 3, times x minus, what's my x coordinate? -2. So I would do minus -2, but minus a negative is the same thing as plus. So x plus 2. And that's it. All right, 19. 19, write the equation 2x minus 4y equals -16 in slope-intercept form. Then graph the line described by the equation. All right, so we've practiced this a lot in class. We've talked about how if we don't like using a particular format, we can always convert it into another form. And it's just by playing with the equation. So we'll rewrite 2x minus 4y equals -16. So if I want this in slope-intercept form, I've got to go back to this format. So if I look, what are the key things I notice? And the biggest thing I notice is that y is by itself. So that's my goal for here, is I'm going to get y by itself. So what's the first thing I'm going to move over? So I'm going to ignore this side because y is already on the left. We want to get everything else over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 2x by subtracting it. So if I subtract 2x, I'm left with negative 4y on the left equals, now these canceled here. I can't combine these. Don't forget that you cannot combine these because this has an x and this does not. So this is going to just be negative 2x minus 16. You could have also said negative 16 minus 2x. That is correct too. But remember, we're trying to get it in slope-intercept form. And even though it would still technically be in slope-intercept form, we're going to just try to make it as close to this as possible. All right, so let's divide everything by negative 4. That's how I'm going to get rid of that negative 4 and get the y by itself. So these cancel, and y is left all alone. Negative 2 divided by negative 4, the negatives will cancel. 2 and 4, I can divide both of those by 2 and get 1/2. So I have 1/2 x. And then 16 divided by 4 is 4. The negatives will cancel. So I have half x plus 4. And then we're going to graph it. So plus 4 means I'm going to start at 4 on the y-axis. And my slope is 1/2, which means I'm going to go up 1 and right 2. Up 1 and right 2, up 1, right 2 until I'm out of room. Then we're going to go down 1 and left 2. Down 1 and left 2. Just going to continue my line. And there we go. All right, number 20. Write two functions that are perpendicular and explain how you know they are perpendicular. Okay, so we talked about this today in class, but I mean, I'm sure when you watch this video, it won't be today anymore, so I don't know why I bothered to say that. Perpendicular lines. The most important thing you know about perpendicular lines is the slopes. So two functions that are perpendicular will have opposite, reciprocal slopes. So they will have opposite reciprocal slopes. So if you have a slope of a over b, that will be perpendicular to a slope of negative b over a. My kiddos, I'll talk to you about this. Anybody else that's watching that has never seen this symbol, that is the geometric symbol for perpendicular. So you can use this symbol instead of writing out the word perpendicular over and over again. All right, so that's the symbol for perpendicular. So I need two functions that are perpendicular. So we'll start with f of x as one function. And let's go for something in slope-intercept form because that's the easiest. So I don't care what your first slope is. Let's see. Alexa, pick a random fraction.
Argentina is a random Italian phrase one.
Alexa, pick a random number.
Here's a number between 1 and 10. It's 8.
Okay, 8. Alexa, pick a number between 1 and 10.
Here is a number, a quadragentillion.
Alexa, pick a random number between 1 and 10.
Your random number between 1 and 10 is 9.
Okay, so we have a fraction of 8/9. I probably should have just come up with something on my own, but I wanted to be random. Alexa, pick another random number between 1 and 10.
Here's a number between 1 and 10. It's 4.
Let's do 8/9 x plus 4. So here's my function. If I want a function that's perpendicular, all I need to do is change my slope. So instead of 8 over 9, I'm going to have 9 over 8. And instead of my slope being positive, we're now going to make it negative. And then my y-intercept can be anything. It can be positive 4 again, or it can be another random number. So Alexa, pick a random number between 1 and 10.
Your random number between 1 and 10 is 8.
Okay, so minus 8. We'll do minus this time. All right, so just as a quick side note, what if you had picked a whole number and not a fraction? What if you had just picked 9x plus 4? So if I need the negative reciprocal of that, I would have 1 over 9. Because remember, 9 is the same thing as 9 over 1. 9 is the same thing as 9 over 1. So to get the reciprocal of it, I would do 1 over 9. So we've got, and it is the opposite reciprocal, so we'll do negative 1/9 x. And then, yeah, we could have plus 4 again. It doesn't matter. We can have the same y-intercept. We could have different y-intercepts. Okay. 21, and this will be where I end part 2. 21. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line parallel to y equals 2x plus 3 that passes through the point negative 1, 5. So there are two ways of doing this. One is incredibly complicated and one of them is a little bit easier. And the easier way to do this is, since I don't know the y-intercept for the parallel line, I'm going to use point slope form and then just make it y-intercept. So I have a point and I have a slope. So what's the slope of the line that's parallel to this? Well, if two lines are parallel, this is a symbol for parallel, by the way. So parallel lines have the same slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. All right, so if I have lines that have the same slope, my slope here is 2. So my other line should have a slope of 2. So let's start out with point slope form. So y minus y1, so my y-coordinate is 5, equals my slope, which is 2, times x minus my x-coordinate, which is negative 1. All right, and so now I want to take this and convert it to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take my 2 and distribute. And I've got y minus 5 equals 2x plus 2. Okay, and so slope-intercept form has y by itself. So let's add 5 to either side. These will cancel, and I have y equals 2x plus 7. And I'm done. All right, so I hope this was helpful. Sorry if I was a little salty through some of this. It's kind of a day, but I hope this was helpful. You know, I truly do enjoy doing these videos, even if I have got a little snark to me, but y'all know not to listen to me too much. So I'm going to end this here. I'm going to make a part 3, and part 3 will be the entire back page. So we'll cut this off here. I hope you guys have a great evening or day or morning or whenever you're watching this, and I look forward to doing part 3 soon. Take care.